Hi, I'm Paul Denton from the British Geological Survey. I work with the UK School Seismology Project. Today I'm going to show you how to assemble the SEP seismometer system. The SEP seismometer system consists of a rigid frame which is made of three separate components, a long base part, a short base part and an upright, which are all in black here. It has a moving boom with two brass masses, a coil for sensing the motion and a damping magnet in a cage. The system also comes with a levelling screw, 4 set screws to assemble the frame and 2 threaded nuts to hold the coil in place. The first thing that we need to do is assemble the rigid frame, and the first thing to do is to attach the upright to the base using the set screws provided. The kit comes with an Allen key, so it should be quite easy to put together. The frame is made of aluminium, so it's important not to over tighten the nuts or you might damage the aluminium frame. So if you just tighten them finger tight with the Allen key, that will hold the frame rigidly in place. And that's the rigid frame assembled. There's a levelling screw which goes at the end of the long part of the base, which is used for adjusting the period of the seismometer. The next thing to do is to put the damping magnet cage in place and then attach the boom arm. The boom arm is connected to the frame loosely with 2 pivot points, one at the top and one at the bottom. The seismometer will be stable only when you've attached the masses. So before that time it will slip around a little bit. That's nothing to worry about. The next thing to do is to put the coil on the rigid frame. This is held in place with 2 set screws and a spacer. So you need to move the spacer so that the coil fits neatly in the middle of the magnet cage attached to the boom arm. The screws holding the coil in place just need a small flat-headed screwdriver, which isn't provided, to keep them in place. Once the coil's in position, you can attach the 2 brass masses to the end of the boom arm. They should just slide on. Make sure that the brass masses aren't touching the coil. When they're in position, you can just gently lock them in place with some small set screws in the top. So the seismometer is now assembled. It needs to be levelled and checked now. There are 2 levelling screws on the system. There's a levelling screw on the short arm which adjusts the horizontal tilt of the instrument, and when the instrument's level, the boom arm will lie along the centre of the frame. The screw on the end of the seismometer adjusts the period of the instrument. Once the instrument's level, you can check the 2 suspension points. The top suspension point and the bottom suspension point consist of two crossed bearings, and it's very important that the bearings just cross at their midpoints. So on the bottom bearing, it's quite easy to check that visually and make sure that the bearings cross exactly in the midpoint in both axes. At the top, it's actually quite easy for the brass rod attached to the boom arm to be touching the roller bearing on the frame. This will cause the instrument to malfunction. So what you need to do is to make sure that the only point of contact is on the midpoint of those two crossed roller bearings. Okay, just two final checks. First of all, we need to make sure that this cable from the sensing coil isn't touching any of the components on the boom arm, and we just clip it out of the way neatly. The next thing to check is that we can see a clear air gap between the coil and the sensing magnet and the damping plate and the damping magnets. So the instrument is now ready to connect up to your electronics. Good luck with it.